Daniel Ross had seen many strange things in his life, but nothing prepared him for the moment he stood face to face with Commander Sira Valrin. The air in the alien armory felt heavy, filled with the low hum of energy weapons and the faint scent of burnt metal. The ship had just survived a brutal battle, its hull scarred and its crew on edge. Daniel, a human engineer, had been sent to help repair damaged systems. But his new assignment was something very different. He was told to fix the personal armor of Sira Valrin, a warrior from the Ziri Empire. She was taller than him, her silver skin catching the dim light. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, sharp and focused. She carried herself like someone who had never once lost a fight. Daniel wasn't afraid of much, but there was something about her that made his heart beat faster. Maybe it was the way every other crew member kept their distance, whispering in fear whenever she walked past. Her armor was unlike anything Daniel had worked on. The chest plate was cracked, energy cells flickering inside like dying stars. He pulled out his tools, trying to focus on the work instead of the alien warrior watching him closely. You know what you're doing, human? She asked in a low voice. Her tone wasn't rude, but it wasn't friendly either. Daniel gave a small shrug. I'll figure it out. He began working, carefully loosening the damaged plates. Inside, a network of glowing lines pulsed like veins. The light shifted in rhythm with her breathing. As he adjusted one of the inner clamps, Sira suddenly leaned closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Careful. That part's sensitive. Daniel froze. The way she said it made his skin prickle. It wasn't just mechanical sensitivity. It was connected to her life force. If he damaged it, she might not survive. He glanced up at her. Sensitive how? Her eyes narrowed. If you touch the wrong line, my heart will stop. That made him swallow hard. His hands moved slower now, his mind racing. Why would such an important weakness be so exposed? Before he could ask, the ship shook violently. A deep alarm echoed through the halls, red lights flashing. Sira tilted her head, listening to a voice on her comm. Then she looked back at him. We have incoming, a Vor Syndicate strike force. Daniel knew that name. Everyone in human space knew it. The Vor were slavers, ruthless and relentless. They had been enemies of both humans and the Ziri for decades. They'll be here in minutes, Sira said. Can you finish in time? Daniel set his jaw. I'll try. He kept working, feeling the ship's vibrations grow stronger as the enemy drew closer. His tools clicked and whirred, sparks jumping as he sealed a crack. Sira's gaze never left him. She stood so close he could feel the faint warmth radiating from her armor. Her breathing had quickened, but not from fear, more like a predator ready to fight. As he worked, Daniel noticed something strange. One of the glowing lines inside the armor pulsed irregularly, like it was reacting to his presence. You're touching it, Sira said quietly. Her tone was almost different now, softer. I'm not, Daniel replied. It's reacting on its own. Her lips pressed together. Then it knows you. That didn't make sense. He was just a human engineer, not some chosen warrior. But before he could question it, another tremor rocked the ship. Louder this time, the comm crackled. All hands, brace for impact. Sira's jaw tightened. We're out of time. Finish it or we both die. Daniel's hands moved with purpose now, his mind shutting out the chaos. He locked the final seal, feeling the armor's hum stabilize. Then the ship jolted hard, throwing them both against the wall. Daniel's head spun, but Sira was already upright, moving with perfect balance. She looked down at him, her expression unreadable. You did well. But before Daniel could feel relieved, a sharp sound filled the air, a distress signal. He recognized the Vor Syndicate ships were closing fast, their dark hulls covered in red markings that glowed like fresh wounds. The Ziri crew moved quickly, preparing weapons and sealing bulkheads, but Daniel could feel the tension in the air. This wasn't just another battle. This was personal for them. Sira led him through the narrow corridors toward the ship's forward armory. Her steps were quick and sure. She didn't look back to see if he was keeping up. She didn't need to. They'll try to board us, she said without slowing. The Vor prefer to take their prey alive. Daniel frowned. You sound like you've dealt with them before. Her jaw tightened. I have. The lights flickered as the ship's shields powered up. A deep hum filled the air. Daniel could feel the vibration in his chest. Somewhere far away, weapons were charging. When they reached the armory, Sira stopped and turned to face him. I still need you to work on the rest of my armor. If the chest plate fails in battle, I will not survive. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Why me? You have your own engineers. Her blue eyes locked onto his. Because you already touched the core and lived. No Ziri would allow a human that close. But I did, and now I can't trust anyone else. There was no arguing with that. He followed her inside. The armory smelled of cold metal and ozone. Weapons lined the walls, glowing faintly under dim lights. As Daniel worked, the ship shuddered again. This time the vibration was heavier, slower. The Vor had begun to match their speed. You're too calm, he muttered, keeping his eyes on the armor's inner circuits. I learned long ago, Syrah said, fear wastes time. He almost smiled. You're not wrong, but his hands froze for a moment when a strange image flashed in his mind. A cold, dim prison cell, chains bolted to the wall, and a human sitting in the shadows, weak but alive. He looked up sharply. What was that? Syrah's eyes widened for the briefest moment before she looked away. You saw it. You put it there, Daniel said, his voice low. In my head. It wasn't on purpose, she replied. Our minds touched when you worked on the core earlier. The armor links my nervous system, and for a moment, it linked us. Daniel didn't know what to say. The image of that chained human wouldn't leave his mind. That man. He's still alive. Her voice hardened. For now, the Vor took him years ago, just like they took my sister. Silence filled the space between them, broken only by the hum of the tools. Daniel tightened the final seal on her shoulder plate, his jaw set. Then let's make sure they don't take anyone else today. Before she could answer, the ship's alarm blared again. This time it was followed by the captain's voice over the comm. All hands. Vor boarding parties incoming. Prepare for close combat. Syrah reached for her helmet, locking it into place with a sharp click. She looked at Daniel one last time before the visor covered her face. Stay near me, human. The Vor will want you alive, and that makes you a target. Daniel grabbed a plasma cutter from the wall. His pulse quickened. He wasn't a soldier, but right now, survival didn't care about titles. As the corridor lights flashed red, the sound of metal claws cutting into the hull echoed through the ship. The Vor were here. The first Vor soldier burst through the hull breach with a hiss of steam. Its armor was black and jagged, its eyes glowing a sickly green. Behind it came three more, moving with inhuman speed. Syrah didn't hesitate. She moved like a blade, her repaired armor humming with faint blue light. A single strike from her energy blade cut the lead Vor in half, sparks and smoke filling the corridor. Daniel stayed behind her, gripping the plasma cutter tight. He wasn't trained for this, but he knew how to use tools, and in a fight, tools could save lives. One Vor leaped over Syrah, landing behind Daniel. He turned instinctively and swung the cutter. The white-hot edge sliced through the alien's weapon arm. The creature shrieked, but before it could strike again, Syrah spun and finished it with a single slash. Stay close, she said sharply, her voice calm even in the chaos. More Vor pushed through the breach. Their weapons spat green plasma that scorched the walls. Syrah deflected most shots with her shield, but Daniel saw the strain in her movements. She couldn't hold forever. Thinking fast, Daniel ripped open a nearby maintenance panel. His fingers danced across wires, rerouting power. Sparks rained down as he overloaded the lighting grid. A blinding flash filled the corridor. The Vor staggered, their vision sensors overwhelmed. Now, Daniel shouted. Syrah surged forward, cutting them down before they could recover. The last one tried to retreat, but Syrah's blade found its mark. When the corridor was finally still, Daniel's breath came fast. He wiped sweat from his forehead. Guess I'm more useful than you thought. Her visor retracted, revealing a small, unexpected smile. You are reckless, human, but you fight well. They began moving toward the ship's core, where the main defense systems could be manually controlled. As they ran, Daniel noticed the faint flicker of her chest plate again. The repaired section glowed in rhythm with her heartbeat. You're pushing yourself, he said. The armor isn't fully stable. She glanced at him. I can endure. But as they turned a corner, a plasma bolt grazed her side. The armor's glow faltered, and she stumbled. Without thinking, Daniel grabbed her arm, supporting her weight. The contact sent a strange warmth through him, like the faint echo of her pulse inside his own chest. Her breathing quickened. The neural link. It's stronger now. What does that mean? Daniel asked, helping her lean against the wall. It means I can feel what you feel, she said. Your fear, your anger, and something else. before he could respond, another group of Vor appeared at the far end of the corridor, their weapons charged and ready. Syrah steadied herself. "We finish this together," Daniel nodded, and for the first time since the battle began, they moved as one, a human and a Ziri warrior, fighting not just for survival, but for each other. Smoke filled the corridor as Syrah stumbled into a side chamber. Daniel pulled the door shut and locked it, sealing them inside. The sound of Vor weapons thudded against the bulkhead, each impact shaking the walls. Her chest plate was cracked again, the glow inside flickering weakly. Daniel could see the strange blue lines pulsing in an uneven rhythm. "That's bad," he said, kneeling beside her. Syrah's voice was calm, but her eyes told a different story. "If the core inside the plate stops, so will my heart." Daniel's hands were already moving, pulling tools from his belt. He tried to keep his breathing steady, but the pounding on the door reminded him they didn't have much time. She reached out, gripping his wrist. "You must follow my instructions exactly. One mistake, and my body will react. I won't be able to stop it. It will kill you before I even know what happened." He nodded. "Then tell me what to do." He worked slowly, opening the armor with gentle precision. Inside, the glowing lines were connected to something that looked alive. Tissue, veins, and faint pulses of light. "Those are part of me," she said quietly. "Not the armor, me." Daniel swallowed, understanding now why she had called it sensitive. Back in the armory, he adjusted a connector, feeling the hum of energy pass through his fingers. For a second, it was like her heartbeat was inside his hands. Her gaze stayed locked on his face. "Do you feel it?" "Yeah," he said. "It's strange." "Not strange," she corrected. "It means the link between us is real now." The door behind them groaned under heavy impact. The Vor were almost through. Daniel quickened his work, soldering a torn filament while keeping his hands steady. The core gave a sudden spark, and Syrah's body arched in pain. Her hand shot up, gripping his shoulder hard. He didn't flinch. "Almost done," he said through clenched teeth. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Hurry, Daniel." The pounding on the door grew louder, metal bending under the force. With one last connection, the core's glow stabilized, the pulse becoming steady again. Syrah let out a deep breath, her strength returning almost instantly. She stood, drawing her weapon. "Good work, now get behind me." The door finally gave way, and Vor soldiers poured in, but this time, Syrah moved faster, stronger. The armor's restored power turning her into a storm of silver and light. Daniel stayed low, using the plasma cutter to block any Vor that got past her. They fought in perfect sync, each movement flowing into the next. When the last Vor fell, Syrah looked at him, her breathing calm again. "You have my life in your hands now, human. I do not give that lightly." Daniel didn't know how to answer, but deep down, he understood. Something between them had changed forever. The ship shook violently as alarms blared across every deck. Syrah and Daniel stepped out of the ruined chamber into a corridor that looked more like a war zone, smoke drifting from broken panels, red warning lights flashing. The Vor were everywhere now, forcing the Ziri crew into brutal close combat. Daniel could see the fear on some faces, but Syrah walked forward without hesitation. Her repaired armor glowed brighter than before, the hum of its power sending a low vibration into the floor. "Stay with me," she said, her tone sharp. "The Vor will try to separate us." They moved toward the central command hall, Vor troops swarming in from side passages. Syrah cut through them with blinding speed, each swing of her blade precise and final. Daniel stayed just behind her, using his plasma cutter like a short-range weapon, striking at any Vor who got too close. A Vor officer spotted Daniel and shouted in their harsh language. The others reacted instantly, charging at him as if he were the true prize. Syrah saw it, and something in her shifted. Her attacks became more savage, her movements faster. She fought like a living shield, forcing every enemy to go through her before they could reach him. They reached the command hall just as a Vor breach tore through the far wall. The Ziri captain was holding the line, but the enemy had numbers. Syrah jumped into the fight without pause. Daniel darted toward the main console, using his engineering skills to override the lockdown and reroute power to the defense turrets along the ceiling whirred to life, spitting streams of blue plasma into the Vor ranks. The sudden shift in firepower turned the tide, but the Vor commander himself stepped forward. He was larger than the others, his armor covered in jagged spikes, his glowing green eyes locked on Daniel. and his voice hissed through a translator, "The human who broke our minds. We have been looking for you." Daniel froze for a moment, not expecting to be recognized. Syrah moved between them instantly, her voice like steel. "You will not touch him," the Vor commander laughed, a deep, grinding sound. "You protect him like one of your own? How curious." Syrah's stance shifted, her blade angled low. "He is mine to protect." The commander lunged. Syrah met him head-on, the clash of their weapons shook the air. Daniel could feel every strike through the deck. The fight was brutal, neither giving ground, but the Vor commander's strength was monstrous. He slammed Syrah into the wall, her armor spark. Under the force, Daniel's pulse raced, and without thinking, he grabbed a nearby power conduit, ripping it free and jamming it into the commander's back. Electricity surged through the alien, and the commander fell with a metallic crash, his body smoking. Syrah looked at Daniel, her breathing heavy. "You risked your life." Daniel gave a half-smile. "Guess we're even now." Her eyes softened, but only for a second. "No, human, not even close." The Vor commander's body was dragged away by the retreating soldiers, but the battle was far from over. The ship's corridors were littered with debris, and the distant sounds of fighting still echoed through the decks. Syrah guided Daniel into a secure chamber near the ship's medical wing. The room was dimly lit, with smooth walls and a faint hum from hidden systems. She closed the door and locked it, her visor retracting slowly. "You need to know something," she said, her voice low. "The Vor didn't come here for the ship, they came for us." Daniel frowned. "Us? Why me?" "I'm just an engineer." Syrah stepped closer, her blue eyes unblinking. "When you repaired my armor the first time, you touched the neural core. That core is linked to my life force, and somehow, it recognized you." "That doesn't explain why they want me," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "It does," she replied. "The Vor believe the one who bonds with a Ziri commander can control them. If they capture you, they will try to use you to break me." Daniel shook his head. "I couldn't control you if I tried." Her expression softened slightly. "No, but they don't know that, and there's more. When our minds touched, I felt something I have never felt with anyone else." "What?" he asked. "A resonance," she said, "like our thoughts could fit together. Human and Ziri are not supposed to bond like this. It is forbidden." Daniel's pulse quickened. "Forbidden by who?" "By the Galactic Council," she said. "They fear what such a bond could mean. A human and a Ziri working as one could become unstoppable." Before Daniel could respond, the ship jolted violently, the lights flickered, and the comm crackled to life with the captain's voice. "Vor reinforcements inbound, preparing to board again." Syrah reached for her helmet, locking it in place. "We will not let them take you." She turned to leave, but paused at the door, her voice softer now. "If I fall, destroy the armor core, never let it be taken." Daniel looked at her, the weight of her words sinking in. "Then I guess I'll just make sure you don't fall." Her eyes met his one last time, before they stepped back into the chaos, the fate of both their worlds hanging on what would happen next. The Vor reinforcements hit the ship like a storm, metal claws tearing into the hull, flashes of green plasma lighting the dark corridors. The Ziri crew fought with everything they had, but the enemy kept coming, wave after wave. Daniel and Syrah pushed toward the reactor chamber, Syrah cutting down Vor with every step, Daniel blasting control panels behind them to seal the doors. The plan was dangerous, but it was the only way. Overload the ship's reactor, fake its destruction, and slip away under the chaos. When they reached the chamber, Daniel rushed to the main console, his fingers flying over the controls. Sparks flew as the reactor's hum grew louder. Syrah stood at the entrance, her blade glowing like liquid light. The Vor broke through the final barrier, charging into the chamber. Syrah met them head-on. Her movements were faster than Daniel had ever seen, her strikes flowing with deadly precision, but there were too many, and one plasma bolt slipped past her defense, hitting her chest plate. The glow inside the armor sputtered. She staggered, dropping to one knee. Daniel didn't think. He ran to her side, pulling out his tools. "Stay with me," he said, his voice shaking. Her breathing was ragged. "Finish the overload." "Forget me, not happening." Aid, hands working furiously to reconnect the broken filaments. The neural link flared in his mind, and suddenly he could feel her pain, sharp and burning. The Vor were closing in, but Syrah's hand gripped his arm, her voice steady despite the chaos. "You are not just an engineer anymore, Daniel, you are my bond, my shield." With one final connection, the armor's glow returned, her strength surged back, and she rose to her feet, her blade swept through the Vor ranks like a storm. Daniel finished the reactor sequence, alarms blaring as the overload countdown began. "We've got 30 seconds. He shouted. Sarah grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the emergency launch pod. They dove inside just as the reactor's light filled the chamber. From space, the Vor fleet saw the Ziri warship erupt in a massive explosion, debris scattering in every direction. They didn't know a small escape pod had slipped away under the blast's cover. Inside the pod, Daniel caught his breath. Sarah removed her helmet, her silver skin glistening in the dim light. "You saved me," she said quietly. He smiled faintly. "Guess we're even now." Her eyes softened. "No, human. You are mine to protect, always." The pod drifted into the darkness, carrying a human and an alien warrior bound by something deeper than any alliance, and somewhere far behind them, the Vor swore revenge, not knowing that the bond they feared had only grown stronger.